Yes, and Lord, I just want to mention these different ones that need touch in their bodies, for their families, touch of healing and health. Those that are sick and struggling, we just ask for that. We ask for Jim's friend that you touch him and touch that toe and that foot, and we ask for these families that have lost people this week, that you touch not only the immediate families but the friends, those that knew and cared for these individuals, and we just ask for that support and that help, that comfort, that peace. And we ask for all those that are out there, that are dealing with recovery, that are seeking recovery and need recovery. We just pray for them. We just pray for your touch, your ministry, your very best for them and to them, and that the right people at the right time would be able to make contact with them, and Lord, that they had received the hope and the freedom that down in their heart that they're looking for. We pray for all the other recovery meetings, whether it's here in the Joplin area or worldwide. We're just believing for your Holy Spirit to work through these systems of recovery, because we know that all healing comes from you. We thank you in Jesus' name, amen. Thanks, everybody. I know the last couple of weeks I failed to mention, and thank you for Willie for turning that on. We have some armbands here that we like to give out. If you like one of these, you're welcome to that. It's celebrating clean time. We have white for 1 day up to 30 days. We have orange for 30 days, green for 60 days, maroon for 90 days, blue for 6 months, yellow for 9 months, glow in the dark 1 year, gray 18 months, black for 2 years, silver for 5 years, gold for 10. And so we just want to have these available. If you're interested, if you raise your hand, okay. Hey, Miracle, these guys would like a band, so. And we got 3 out here, so good. And you out there in internet land, if you'd like one of these, hey, come on down to our meeting, our live meeting here. We're at 432 Main in the alley entrance. You come to the alley, and there's a big sign out there that John puts out for us normally, and I appreciate that, John. And it directs you with other signs right down here. We're in the basement of our fellowship hall here at the church. So anyway, come down and get one of these. If you're not able to do that, if you want to, send in a request, or let us know, we'll do our best to try to get you what you would like. So there's that. Thanks for that. I think it's neat. So give these ones that are getting a bracelet a big hand. How about that? And if you were one of the ones that got one, you can give the hand to the other. So, so good deal. All right. So do what? Oh, thank you, John. We also have a basket over on this table where Miracle's walking, a wicker basket that if you have an offering you'd like to give, that would be the place to give it right there. So, hi Tommy, glad you made it. So, here at Saturday Night Live, we're here for recovery. We're faith-based, but you don't have to believe in what we believe necessarily in the faith-based area, as long as you're seeking recovery. That's what we're looking for. If you're looking for recovery, we're here to help you. And we believe that the higher power is God, but we're not saying you have to believe that. But we want to help you in your process of your recovery, because we want to make a difference in your life. And we know that we assist, okay, we help. We can't do it for you, and you already know that, right? No one can make you recover, right? And when I say recover, it's not just abstinence, even though abstinence is not bad, but recovery is on the inside. And just because you stop using or consuming or acting out, that doesn't mean that you've recovered. You just stopped doing whatever it is that was troublesome at the time, but chances are you probably picked up something else, right? Hello.
Yes, amen.
And we just like, we'll switch addictions real easy. And sometimes we not even aware of it. And so, but recovery, you can have recovery and not even have sobriety. But after you have recovery long enough, it always will affect sobriety. Okay? That's the change on the inside. And that's what we're going for. So this is the place that anybody's welcome to come, whether you're drunk or high. We welcome you here as long as you don't infringe your stuff on anybody else. You're welcome here, okay? When you start infringing your stuff on somebody else, then we have to say, wait a minute, you've encroached the boundaries here. So does that make sense? So you're welcome here. I've been told we're about the only place that would welcome somebody, and we have, whether it's been high or drunk or even, anger infused. Okay, did you know anger was a drug? It can push you over the edge, right? You guys don't know that kind of stuff because most of you guys are angels, right? And so anyway, that's we're glad you're here, and we want to welcome you to this place, and we accept you. We may not accept your stuff, but we don't even accept our own stuff, right? Yeah. So we're all in the same boat. We're all fellow strugglers. Yes? Aren't we all? Yep. That's just the way it is. And I say thank God for His grace. And so, all right. We're going to be dealing with step 3 tonight, and I'm going to just touch on it real quick. We made a decision to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. Okay? And so that's what we're going to be talking about. I think it's going to be good. And I got some quotes that I want to start off with. I decided I ought to minimize my quotes because sometimes I guess it seems like I go a long ways, but there just seems like there's so much that I like to say in the quote times. But these quotes are pretty good. And anybody familiar with Nikola Tesla? Yeah. Well, he said that if you want to find the secret of the universe, anybody interested so far? Okay. If you want to find the secret of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? Tesla was a pretty smart guy. And we're still trying to figure out some of his stuff. Albert Einstein, he's another pretty intelligent fella. And we'll be talking about this later in the night because I'm going to be talking about 3 simple daily practices that can change your life. How about that? Anybody interested in that? Right? He said this. He said that the single most important decision any of us will ever make is whether or not to believe that the universe is friendly. Yes? All right? So that's the most important decision to Albert Einstein. And so if he thought it was pretty important, what do you think? Another quote from Einstein is this. He says, "There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle." So that's pretty good stuff, I think. How about you? Here at Saturday Night Live, you know, we're just trying to do our best to connect and help. And I try to say this every week. We invite you to take what works for you and then leave the rest, right? And who knows? Maybe what you left, well, you can pick it up next time. Good deal?
Yep.
Okay. I had one more. Oh, I had a couple more but I think I'm going to read one more. And that is the number one secret in life is to grow every day. And I just want to encourage, you know, if you want your life to change, in fact, it changes every day. It either gets better or worse every day, right?
Yeah.
And you decide which direction it's going to go. You say, well, it's those forces out there that make the difference. Really? Really? Is that the truth? If that's what you believe, then you're playing the role of the victim. That may be a little harsh. Do what?
Instead of the victor.
Yeah. And so we're either going to recognize that I'm going to try to do something to make my life different every day, and the way to do that is by growing a little bit every day. Now you say, well, I don't know what I need to grow on. Well, you know what not to do, right? Let's try not doing some of those things that you know what not to do. And then maybe a thought will come to you about some things you can do to make things better every day. Yes?
Yep.
And the thought is, I think is in our best interest to try to leave this earth a little bit better than it was when we came on.
Yep.
How about you?
Yep.
So, yes, ma'am.
Maybe one more healthy choice a day.
Yeah, make it
Like
help.
we did yesterday or
Yeah,
something, I
yeah.
don't know.
Healthy choice. Yep. So anyway, I'm glad you're here. We're going to get going, and we'll see how it all goes. And John's going to read the 12 steps for us. Right?
Yep.
Step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 9, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. Have a good night.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Rick.
How's everyone doing, Matt?
Awesome.
Great. Like to hear that. So we are doing step 3 tonight, and I chose, redeeming the past. And the reading's out of Isaiah 54, 4 through 8. Let's see, right here. It says, "Fear not, you will no longer live in shame. Don't be afraid, there is no more disgrace for you. You will no longer remember the shame of your youth and the sorrows of your widowhood. For your Creator will be your husband. The Lord of the heavens' armies is his name. He is your Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of all the earth. For the Lord has called you back from your grief, as though you were a young wife abandoned by her husband, says the Lord, says your God. For a brief moment I abandoned you, but with great compassion I will take you back. In a burst of anger I turned my face away for a little while, but with everlasting love I will have compassion for you, says the Lord your Redeemer." And on my side note over here, I like to always read this because this always says something to me. Of course, step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills of our life over to the care of God. I had somebody argue with me one time, why would you turn your will over to God when he gives you free will? It don't say to turn your will over to God, it says turn your will over to the care of God. Because apparently I'm no longer capable of taking care of my will in the correct way anyway. Anyway, it says each one of us come to God with a past. In turning our lives over to him, we give him our entire selves, including our past losses and shame. We hand over to him every moment of disgrace, every tear we have ever cried, every word we wish we could take back, all the broken promises, the loneliness, all the dreams that died, the dashed hopes, the broken relationships, our successes and failures, all our yesterday and the scars they have left in our lives. Under Old Testament law, if someone lost freedom, property, or spouse because of a disaster or a death, the next of kin was looked to as a redeemer. If property had been lost because of inability to pay, the redeemer would pay it and return it. Return it to the original owner. If a woman lost her husband, the redeemer would marry her, providing her with protection and love. God tells us, "Fear not, you will no longer live in shame. Don't be afraid, there is no more disgrace for you. You will no longer remember the shame of your youth and the sorrows of widowhood, for your Creator will be your husband, the Lord of heaven's armies, in his name. He is your Redeemer, for the Lord has called you back from grief. God is our Redeemer, the restorer of our losses. He is Lord of all, even of our days and our dreams in the past. When we give God the past, he can make up for all we have lost. He can rid us of the shame and fill the empty places of our hearts. And I got a couple of questions on that I want to answer real quick. I'll get to it here. Redeeming the past. How do I hold God a Redeemer at arm's length, and why? I think for me, the way that I do that is my own self-unforgiveness, not self-forgiveness, self-unforgiveness. Because I hold on to that guilt and that shame, and I'm not allowing God, why, I don't have to allow God to forgive me. I'm not allowing myself to accept his forgiveness. If I'm not able to forgive myself, how can I do that? And that's been a problem with mine throughout my recovery, is holding on to that. The second question is what fears have the most power in my life? I think for me, the fears I have the most is fear of not being accepted, fear of abandonment, uh, fear that, I'm just not good enough, and that's the way, I don't know about anybody else, just speaking for myself, being in addiction for all the years I've been in addiction, I feel insignificant most of the time. Even when I'm doing good, I still feel insignificant. So that's probably the biggest fear that I have, that I won't be accepted by other people, and that I am insignificant. 3 is how is shame connected to fear in me. Well, I mean, I carry around the shame 24/7, and just like I said on that first question, that the guilt and the shame are a part of me. That I don't need to shut the door on my past, but I don't need to be living in it either. I need to always remember where I come from, what I've done to hurt other people and to hurt myself. But I don't need to be living in that guilt and that shame no more, because God just said there in the scripture that he come to redeem me, to take away that guilt and shame. It says it right there in Isaiah 54, that he will do this. Yes, there was a time where in anger, he turned his back. Why was he angry with me? Probably because I was hurting myself with all the drugs and the alcohol, and he didn't create me for that. He created me to be a strong, wholesome man. And so that's the reason why I live in the guilt and the shame, because I didn't live up to that. And I've always heard there's a difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says I've done something wrong. Shame says I am something wrong. So anyway, that's about all I've got on step 3, redeeming the past, and I appreciate y'all letting me share.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Tommy.
Hi, it's been an interesting week. It's okay. But something I learned is we gotta take care of ourselves sometimes, and that means working an extra shift that you'd normally be resting. Just so you can take care of your own junk, so you're not having junk build up in your life. So, my friend usually sends me the questions for the week, and I don't think I asked for them, so here we go. We're on 3, right? Yeah. I'll read the question first before it says, I'm gonna go from the 3rd question. How is shame connected to fear in me? I was thinking about shame that we don't even own for myself. And
Say that again.
shame that's not even really mine to have.
Okay.
Because some people soak up negativity places and then they have to leave and all that negative's on me, and I've been through that in my life a few times. Or shame of getting really high after you've been clean for so long and you're so high you feel really bad. And then the fear and the flight mode kicks in. Thought about that. I've gotta work through the shame of our past. I do. I still do. I have things come up that bring up stuff from way in my past that I never dealt with. And that's what I thought about, let's say about the redeeming the cans, redemption. When I was younger, I'd collect cans. And we had 2 recycle centers in our neighborhood. One was 5 miles down the road, the other one was 10. But the 10-mile one, you could crush your cans and put fishing weights in them. But if you put fishing weights in little lure weights, in them and went to the other place, they'd jingle around and those ones would fall out, but not at the other place. I know every time I went to the first place, I knew I wasn't gonna get in trouble by my parents because I didn't have no cans jingle, because I knew I couldn't do it. But the other place, every can was getting a couple of them, So that right there was a shameful act that made me feel fear. If I went the extra mile to put, get the crush can place and not the first one. It helps me in life, knowing I've been through things that I could possibly, as you get older, I have people in my family, as they get older, they resorted to who they were when they were younger, but it doesn't work for them. And I think I'm kind of learning from that, and that's kind of a scary place to be. But I have God on my side, because right here it says, how do I hold God the Redeemer at my arm's length, and why? Because I can't hold their arms. Maybe I could when I was a child, that was different, but now I'm an adult and I have to hold on to God and Jesus, because I got people that help me, I have people that don't help me. Thank God. It helps mold me. And what fears have the most power in my life? Probably negative interaction with people that like to get a rise out of you. Fake people that just using you for information. That kind of gives me fear because I don't know people's intentions give me fear. Until I truly can trust people, because I have had trust issues. So, any questions?
On question number 1, it says, how do I hold God? And so, did you have any thoughts just on the front part of that
Well,
question?
this goes back into the last few weeks of having a different understanding of who a parent was. And then as I grew up, seeing what things weren't parent-like, and really truly getting to kind of get to a place where you go, wait, God is the Father. And then, the reality of who God is, I still don't all the way know, but that's kind of how, just by finding out the truth about why we do hold on to Him.
So our perception affects how we hold God?
Yeah, I had a friend that was abused for their entire life. And so they thought God was like this bodybuilder, mean person,
Based on their experience,
Yeah,
which
from-
caused
yeah.
their perspective.
That really, when they told me that stuff, it really opened my eyes to wait, Anything else? Anything? You guys out there can send questions in too. Oh. Can't they?
They can?
Thank you, see you guys later.
Thank God.
Thank you, Tommy. I wanted to touch on the shame aspect. I was waiting on Rick to ask me if I had any questions. I had more questions for Rick than I did for you, Tommy. So, sometimes I like to be invited before I. Yeah, okay. And so.
Sometimes I like to be prepared before I get here, that just did not happen tonight. Sorry.
Well, do you have a book now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Good. Well, I wanted to read a quote from Brene Brown. Anybody familiar with Brene Brown? She is a professor in the University of Texas, I believe, or at least she used to be. And she is a researcher, and she was researching grief and shame. And so let's see if I can find that quote. When I had planned on sharing that quote, oh, there it is. I was looking on the wrong paper. And I think I shared this a couple of weeks ago, but, and there's two different quotes here. One is, shame is the fear of disconnection, according to Brene Brown. Okay, shame of disconnection, and that is the feeling of being disconnected, and which is that less than idea, and that we believe in that disconnection. And so she goes on to say in another quote, it says, fear is that other people can see things that would cause them to disconnect from you. Okay? A fear that people can see bad things about me and then they choose to disconnect. And fear is a loss, right? A loss of something. And so, I agree with your definitions on shame. Shame is that we believe that guilt is that I've done something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong. I'm all messed up. And in the rest of that, if you don't if we're not able to forgive ourselves, we say, well, I messed up and I'm unforgivable. I can't be forgiven. Right? So, I didn't get to ask questions a while ago, so maybe I can ask one now. And you'll have to speak loud so they can hear you on the camera, okay? And and you can wave me off if you don't want to answer it. How about that? Sounds fair? So, you were talking about living in this shame. Is that all right, that terminology? Living in that shame, and that you know that God has forgiven you, and that forgiveness has been provided for you, and that you needed to appropriate that same forgiveness on you, so that you can be set free from that shameful feeling, because you've been forgiven, but you still feel bad, right? So the question is, there's a reason why you choose to hold on to the shame. So the question is, do you know why you choose to hold on to the shame?
Well, it would have a lot to do with fear.
Fear of?
Well, like I said, I have a seriously bad fear of abandonment.
Right.
And if I let go of anything, such as shame or guilt, I'm letting go of a piece of me.
Okay, so you're saying that you're using shame as a form of protection.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that protection, and I won't disagree with that, but how's that working out for you?
That's not working out too well.
Okay, so is it really protecting you?
No, it's not protecting me.
There's a comfort in holding on to that shame.
I think more than anything, when I'm holding on to that shame, I'm giving myself an excuse
Go ahead.
to keep doing the destructive things that I'm doing. It's an excuse. It's woe is me.
Right. And because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I am continually, there's sometimes it's worse than other times, right?
Right.
And so when you get loaded up with that that you leave the door open, you have an open invitation for your bad, serious feeling of shame to pop in anytime that it chooses. And it could be when you make a mistake or a bad day or somebody looks at you funny or who knows what, right? You know, and so, and then it shows up and it says, here I am again, and I'm gonna torture you a little while because you give me permission to do that. And that is correct, right?
Correct.
Now, the question is, why do you want to have this relationship with shame? There's a reason why.
There is a reason why, and I can't honestly answer that because I don't know why anyone would wanna hold on to that. That's destructive thinking.
That's absolutely true. But there's a reason, right?
There is a reason.
Okay.
What the reason is beyond me. If I actually knew the answer to that, my life would be peachy.
Really?
But, no, the only answer I have to that is just like I said, it's just something else that gives me an excuse to continue with my destructive behavior.
Right. Because it overwhelms you, because it backs up on you, and then when your amygdala takes over, it shuts down your controlling cognitive forces that would help you to make healthier choices, and that, in a sense, unconsciously gives yourself permission because, hey, it's just the way that it is.
Well, and, you know, what the hell, everybody thinks I'm a bad person anyway. So why not just go ahead and live on up to that?
Yeah, and we'll come back to you, yes.
Well, I think at first, now this is just my thoughts on it.
Your thoughts, we'd like to have your thoughts.
Shame protects you for,
Wait a second, I couldn't hear you.
shame protects you for a minute, right? Because it keeps you from doing the bad thing that you did to get the shame to begin with. But after a while,
Well, just because I didn't say anything doesn't mean I agree. Go ahead.
right, after a while, when you continue to live in that shame, it becomes a problem. It starts hindering your progress to be, better than you were before.
And there's a possibility. There was a time in my life that I didn't think there was any forms of healthy shame, but there could be a little bit, but enough to help us to recognize that I've crossed into that zone and this is not where I need to be. That would be the only part of it. Now, but see, there's a reason why we continue to go back to any of our coping mechanisms. And shame, would you agree that this could be classified as one of your coping addictions, or maybe even addictions?
Sure.
Okay, and so there's a reason why you choose to live in shame, or in other terms, choose to beat the hell out of yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And I agree a lot with what Mike said too. Sometimes I use it for the good. So, I try not to make the same mistake that made me feel shameful to begin with, make that mistake again. But I've used it in both ways.
Yes.
Destructive and for good.
But one of our problems is if we were able to run it back in your life or anybody else's life and say, well, when did this first show up in your life, this sense of shame, chances are it's been there a long time. Now, today is your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. And so there's a chance that this old friend that you have, which we're going to call shame, I kind of cringe calling it a friend, but you've hung on to it. You have other bad friends that you hold on to, but that's your choice, right? Uh-oh, look out. And so what we have is this thing. So it's been there a long, long time is my point. Would you agree with that?
About 40 years.
40 years?
45.
Yeah.
maybe closer to,
Yeah.
how old am I?
Yeah, how old are you?
Maybe more than
Yeah,
45
and
years.
because the world system is entrenched in shame and punishment, okay? And that's not God's system, even though a lot of church stuff says that it is. That's not true. And you can even look at Romans 8:1 and 2, and you can see that recognize it's not. He says, there is therefore now no condemnation to those that are in Christ Jesus. The Greek is katakrio, means no death, okay? And so our point is that there's a part of our brain, just like with all the other addictions, drugs, alcohol, anger, violence, gambling, there's a little bit of a flicker in there that gives you, or used to give you, a bump, okay? But it probably takes way more now to bump you, right? And so you get less, which costs you more and creates more destruction in your life, right? That's a truthful statement. And so why is it that we why do we choose to continue to stick our hand in the bear trap? Okay? And well, the pain makes everything else small. Yeah, I get that. Kind of a hard way to go about it though, right? Well, you know, like shooting yourself in the foot or someplace else. People do that. But that pain overwhelms everything else going on and causes us to be focused on that for a moment instead of all the other stuff. So now, I think I'm gonna answer your question, hopefully. How about that? Which it applies to you, me, and everybody else in this room and out there in video land, okay? In my opinion. And I don't have to be right, but I think I am, okay?
You're always right, John.
Well, I wouldn't say it if I didn't think I was, okay? But I've been wrong before. I have.
Very rarely.
I have been wrong before. Now, guys, don't get me into this corner. So this is the deal: is because of this system that we live in, this world system, we learn by the age of 5 that punishment is supposed to make us better. Would you agree with that? That's the system we believe. It's a flawed system. We believe it. Okay, we think it works. Okay, because that's what we've been told, and it doesn't. So has punishment made any of you better? Really? Okay. Now maybe difficult times came or painful situation happened, and what made you better was you paid attention and you made a new choice. Well, you said, well, then the pain made me make a new choice. Well, the pain helped you to get some clarity, but the punishment didn't make you do it. You made the choice. The punishment didn't fix you. The new choice fixed you. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying, and I'll put it in as simple a terms as hopefully I can, and I've already failed that, haven't I? But we down deep, we're convinced that if I want to do better, and I know that you do, and I think everybody in this room wants to do better, or you wouldn't be here, okay? So your bad stuff, your bad behaviors, your addictions doesn't mean you're a bad person. You just have extremely bad or poor or unhealthy mechanisms to deal with your stuff. Would you agree with that statement? All right. So the problem here is that we believe that that if I punish myself and tear myself up, all right, my system, if I inflict myself with whether it's shame or pain or depression or a mental whirlwind or finding chaos and jumping into it, there's a part of us that says, well, that will teach me to be different. But the fact of it is, it never has, okay? You just know you don't want it. But the belief is that if I punish me, that will make me do better in the future, okay? If I punish me, that'll make me do better. And I want to do better. So that's a good intention, right? And so, because you want to do good. But we've danced in this toxic shame field for so long that it's almost like, what would I do if my partner's not here anymore? I would be alone. How do I survive without the shame or the drugs or the alcohol or this chaotic whirlwind that goes on? Because I remember one of the first things I learned, and this was probably back in the 70s, I was reading a pamphlet about children of alcoholics, and he says that children of alcoholics have a chaotic lifestyle, and they seek chaos because it's familiar to them. They'll either create it or find it. Do you agree with them?
Yes.
And that's because they know the whirlwind. Okay, I know that I can get through this bag of crap, but I don't know what to do if I don't have that bag of crap. And so the bottom line, the reason why we don't forgive ourselves is because we think that punishment's going to make me better. And so, is that the truth? So, can I give you one more piece of evidence? All right. So, if we believe that punishments makes us better, so that means that what we're doing is practicing what we don't want to do. We're beating ourselves up with the bad stuff, right? And we see it in our brain over and over and over and emotionally. Does that make sense? We see it, and so we see what we do. And the reason why we're seeing it over and over and over is because we're afflicting ourselves with pain and punishing ourselves so we know what not to do. Correct? Isn't that the system? Right? And now, the question is, if that's what you do to you, then what are you accomplishing? And I'll answer that question if you let me. All right? What you're accomplishing is learning how to do the bad stuff better than you ever had done before, because that's what you're practicing. Right? But that's not what you want, but that's what you practice. So whatever you practice, you get better at. And if you keep practicing what you don't want, you're going to get more of what you don't want. So, the answer is, practice what you do want. Okay? Now, Jesus said something along this line about forgiveness. Right? He said, you need to press towards the mark, but you have to let all this other stuff go. And that's God's grace. Right? And so if we can choose to practice mentally and emotionally to any degree that we have been beating ourselves up with, then that means we'll get better at what we want to do instead of what we don't want to do. Right? Now the question is, the system that you've been working, hasn't it been working for you? I mean, do you get what you practice? Hello? Do you get what you practice? If you don't like what you're getting, then maybe you need to practice something else. What do you think about those apples? And so they said eat them in case you didn't miss that. So we need to do that. And so what do we have to do is, Einstein says it takes 11 positives offset 1 negative. So that means if we practice this mistreatment or a bad belief 10 times, then we need to multiply it by 11, and that's how many times we need to practice the positive thing. So that just gives you a little bit of idea how much work we got for us.
That means 110 times.
Yeah, 110 times. But you probably practice the shaming more than 10 times, right? So did I, hopefully I made that reasonably clear. Is, any questions, comments on that? And the shame that Brene Brown was talking about is we feel badly already, and I feel really bad if I think you can see it, right? That's that shame, okay? So we're carrying around this shame inside of us. And what's the answer? The answer is just what the scriptures that Rick read, to recognize that we've been redeemed, we've been forgiven, we don't have to live in shame anymore, no matter what. Now, I want to tell a little secret here. I've worked with a lot of people, and we've addressed some of these things, and we'll come down to, I can't do that because what I did was so unforgivable. I've literally had that said to me, okay? And I said, okay, all right, I get that. I said, so, but if you had a friend that did what you did, would you be able to forgive them for that deed or whatever? Every time they say, sure, I can do that. Okay? And I said, so it's not that you don't know how, because you don't how, because you can do it for somebody else. You're just unwilling to do that for yourself. Does that make sense? And so then I said, and this one person said, actually two that I remember, said, well, that's literally happened. I have forgiven people for doing what I did. Okay? But they hold it against themselves. Now, that's kind of crazy. Wouldn't you agree? Uh-oh, I don't want, because probably everybody in here has got a similar dynamic in one way or another, right? So, maybe not. But the fact of it is, when we can let that go. I heard a story today about a minister that was very active in a church, and the church was doing great, and there were a lot of growth, and he had a sexual scandal with one of the ladies in the church, and he was talking to a fella, and he was asking for forgiveness, and he said, okay, you've asked for forgiveness, but what's the problem? In other words, why have you done this? Because this isn't the first time. There was other times many years before. So there's a core problem. Anybody here figure there's a core problem down there somewhere? Yep. That's covered up, right? Long ago. And the guy, he had blocked out so much, he didn't know what was talking about. And he kept asking questions about, what was underneath that, okay? And all of a sudden, it was like his awareness opened up, and he realized it was because a bad experience with another individual in his life that abused him at an early age. And he'd been hiding that and suppressing it, and actually nobody knew about it, not even his wife. And when he realized, and he had extreme anger towards the individual, which is understandable. But see, he's been carrying around that poison inside him most of his life. You know what I'm talking about? What happens when you carry emotional poison inside of you? It poisons you, right? And it sabotages you.
You die daily.
Yeah. And so even though he was being used by God in a big way, but he felt corrupted inside. And he hadn't told his wife that he loved her for 18 years. Or he hadn't told his kids that he loved them. And that's because he was so hardened on the inside. You follow me? And when he realized what was going on, they worked on that and processed that and realized that that was one of the main roots of his problem. The reason why he acts out. Okay, because that stuff builds up on us and eventually it's going to come out sometime, right?
Yep.
We just pray, God, hopefully it didn't show out at the wrong time, and if it does show out, hopefully nobody's there to see it. Yeah, how's that work out for us, right? And so anyway, he resolved that. He immediately was able to tell his wife that he loved her. He went home and told his kids he loved them, and honestly, he did. He didn't have that block inside of him that was separating his core self from the world. Does that make sense? He had a lid on himself. He swallowed poison, and he continually kept swallowing it. And he kept adding to it with acting out. Does that make sense? So what we have to do is we have to be willing to resolve that stuff. And that's the reason why I said there's a reason why. And when we come to those conclusions, and even if I'm wrong about the particular reason why, there's still a reason why. And it's in our best interest to find out what it is that beats the crap out of us all the time on the inside. And we feel separated. We feel ashamed. We feel disconnected. We feel abandoned, right? All those things. And if we eliminate those blocks, because what we're saying is, I don't deserve to be loved. I don't deserve for God to forgive me. I don't deserve to feel any peace. I deserve what I have inflicted upon myself. Maybe it wasn't because, maybe I didn't do this to me, but what's been going on for the last 30 years or 50 years, I've been doing that to me, right? Does that make sense?
It's all about perspective.
And that's what we're going to talk about real quick in my topic here. So unless you have a question about the steps or any of that information, I know I kind of spun out into that, but hopefully that was beneficial.
Was very, very beneficial.
Something to think about. We can continue this again another time, you know.
And just so you know, we can totally hear you outside, so it's cool. I really appreciate the speaker outside.
Well, that's the reason why we got it there. So thank
I
you.
really like that, because like, if I wanna go smoke, I still hear exactly what's going on.
All right. But that way I can't look at you. All right. So what I'm going to touch on tonight, and this again is out of Psychology Today, and my title is 3 Simple Daily Practices That Can Change Your Life. Redeeming the past, okay? That's what we're talking about, redeeming the past. That means taking that corrupted past and allowing it to be healed, right? Restored. And we all need that. Yes? We all need that. Yes. Okay, so out of the Psychology Today, their title was, you know, it was something like 1 simple choice can change your life, I think was their title. And And it was, is the universe friendly, which is Einstein's quote, and the decision is yours, or you decide. All right, so here we are. The reason why my title's different, because I didn't feel like their title really spoke to what we were doing, even though their information indicates that. Let me find where I'm at, guys. All right, here I am. There's the end of it. All right. That's 5. That's to be 4. That's 2. That's 3. So this is telling me I'm missing a piece of paper. It's going to be hard to do that if I don't have it all. There we go. We got, I just didn't pull it out of my binder. Okay. So what would you say if I said that I have something that's pretty simple, these simple daily routines that could help you to change your life? Are you interested in that? Okay, all right. And so Einstein's quote here about we need to see the universe friendly, and the reason why he said that was because we get to choose, and because he looked at it that there are so many things that have to go right every day in the universe, in the galaxy, in our solar system, in our body, for us to survive. Yes, there's some things that go wrong, but there are so many things that go right all the time. Okay, so that doesn't mean that that nothing goes wrong. It just says that in comparison, there are so many things that go right. Does that make sense? All right. So Romans 8:28 says that he'll cause all these things to work together for our good, right? And he does. Now, I'll grant you, there have been multiple times. I remember walking across a parking lot one time, and God and I was having a mental conversation. I was with some other people, and it was like, because it just seemed like nobody here has ever had this, I know, but it was like everything was going wrong. Things were breaking, things were messed up. It seemed like there's the waves of difficulty were all over, okay? And the thought came to me, Romans 8:28, that he'd cause all these things to work together for my good. And I said, I know that's what the scriptures say, but right now I'm not too sure about that because I can't see it. Why? Because what I was feeling was a long ways away from that. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And then my next thought was, but you said it. I've experienced it in the past that you've been able to take these situations and work them out for my good. And so even though I don't know how in the world you're going to do it this time, I'm still going to trust you and put my faith and trust in that. Does that make sense? Now the trouble is, very possibly, I like the way I said that, very possibly in my earlier years, I may have not done that, and I would get overwhelmed because of the possibilities of things going wrong, and then actually, I would actually cause myself to sabotage myself. Has anybody ever sabotaged yourself
That's what
before?
they said, you create your
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
It happens.
Create your, and so, and the fact of it is we do affect our reality, and quantum physics tells us that, when you come to that, because when you come to those moments, you have in superposition, that's where all the choices are there in the superposition, and you get to choose whatever you are able to choose, from extremely unhealthy to extremely healthy. And it's entirely up to you, according to quantum physics, which lines up with faith, which, again, I think we can use Romans 8:28 to show us that He's designed good to come in our life. But the trouble is, oftentimes we sabotage ourselves. Now, probably none of you done that, but you probably know somebody that's done that, right? Right? So here we are, again, it doesn't mean that everything is smooth. In fact, sometimes our difficult times is our way of trying to insert our will into things and trying to make things happen the way we want them to happen. Anybody know what I'm talking about? And it doesn't line up with God's will, so something has to give when that happens. You know what I'm talking about? And it's not going to be God's will. What's going to give is your stuff in your life. And I like what I'm trying to remember what one guy said. He said, God will try to direct you sometimes with ping pong balls, and if you don't listen to the ping pong balls, then later on you'll get a bowling ball. That was what he said. I didn't say that, but that's what he said. But I don't know. What's your experience been like? And so we need to learn what we need to learn so that we are able to make those adjustments. Or, I don't know, we talked about Saul here a month or so ago, how he was resisting the direction of God, and he thought he was doing a good thing, and he was, because he thought he was working for God, killing Christians. And he said, why are you resisting? Why are you kicking against the ox goad or the pricks? Why are you continually trying to insert your will over my will? Right? So, the three things, right? Try to hit them pretty quick. 3 practices. Again, practices. You have to practice this. We talked about practice a while ago. Trouble is, we practiced the wrong thing. Hopefully, this could be some of the right things for you to practice. It's up to you to decide, all right? The first practice is that we need to, the brain needs to be rewired, okay? We have to rewire our brain. And basically, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier about practicing mentally what you want instead of practicing what you don't want. Does that make sense? And the research tells us that the brain is very sophisticated, and it's been designed to try to help us to survive. Does that make sense? So, and because of that, it's been wired to see the negative or problems faster, better, or quicker than good things. Right? Why? Because of survival. Yes.
Going back, I remember our study, Caroline Leaf, she says that they've even proven or showed it on x-rays that you can actually rewire your brain.
Right. And neuroplasticity, where you actually, your brain can be, you can grow your brain. And but our problem is that we are designed to try to survive, so we see problems quicker. Does that make sense? And so we're more sensitive to the negative, right? And a part of our survival techniques, because we don't have thick skins like hides. We don't have sharp claws, sharp teeth, big fangs, to try to protect ourselves with, like a lot of the predators. But what we do have is a brain, right? And they don't have the brain that we have. And so what we have to do is we have to develop it to help keep us alive, and then recognize to use it to help us to thrive instead of just survive. Does that make sense? So we're predisposed to seeing the bad stuff. We see it quicker. And in fact, they say that our amygdala picks up threats, and it has a straight connection to our nervous system. Okay? It gets there faster and quicker. Okay? The reason why is so that we can stay alive. Okay? Right? Because we can respond to a threat before we're even consciously aware of it, before we see it and we recognize it, right? Which is a good thing. So what we have to do is we have to rewire our brain, and that we expand our field of awareness, that we look past the threats. Okay, yeah, that's a problem, but that's not really a life threat to me. I don't have to get all upset about that. I don't have to go into defense mode. That we expand our awareness, that we try to see more positive than negative, right? And that's where the gratitude practice comes in really well, and that is recognizing the good things in your life. Because there's been times I've asked people, well, can you make a list of 25 good things in your life? And I had one guy that says, no, I can't. I don't have any. And I started naming stuff in his life. And he said, well, yeah. And I said, well, will you try it? And he said, I'll try it because you've asked me to. 2 weeks later, he came to me and he said, that really works. Because he started looking on purpose for positive things in his life. Not what we should be grateful about, but what we really are grateful for. Okay, does that make sense? And so we need to expand our awareness. We need to start looking for positives instead of negatives, right? Least try to see more positives than negatives. How about that? Right. All right. The second practice is the story, which probably everybody's here familiar with the story about the Chinese farmer. Okay, the Chinese farmer, because oftentimes we automatically jump to conclusions about what's good and what's bad, correct? Right? And the Chinese farmer story, how many have heard this story before? Chinese farmer? Okay, nobody? Okay, well, good, then everybody, you probably heard it, but you'll recognize it here in a minute. And so the Chinese farmer and his son lived in a little village, and one day they were working, and they had one horse to do all their plowing and work at the house, and they came out one morning and the horse was gone, and the son chest fell, and he got all upset because he realized now he didn't have a horse to plow the field. And his dad shrugged his shoulders and he says, this may be bad, this may be good, who knows? Well, that night they went to bed, and the next morning they got up, and when they got up, they looked out in their stockade, and that horse that ran away brought a whole herd of other horses with him, and now they had 20 horses. Okay? And so, and the son, he was ecstatic. He was excited. He was just wound up over it, and the dad saw him, and he said, well, you know, shrugged his shoulders and says, this might be good, this might be bad, we don't know, right? And the son was kind of annoyed at his dad because he made that statement. Well, the next day, the son got up, and they both got up, and he decided he wanted to tame one of those horses. So he's out there trying to tame the horse, probably break it. And what happened was, instead of breaking the horse, he broke his leg. And his dad struggled to get him back in the house. And of course, the dad said, with a shrug of his shoulders, and the son didn't like it either. And he said, this may be good, this may be bad, who knows? Well, of course, the son thought, you know, you can imagine what thought, how can this be good, you know? All right. Well, the next day, they looked out the window and they saw the Chinese army coming in, and they were selecting all the young, able men, boys of certain age, to go fight in the army. And when they got to him, of course, he had a broken leg. And they said he couldn't do it. And so the son preempted his father and said, with a twinkle in his eye, he said, it might be good, it might be bad, who knows? So the parable of the story is we can't see the future, all right? And so we're just going to go with it. We don't know. So don't judge everything, prejudge everything. Does that make sense? If you're struggling with this, how many things have you had in your life you thought would never work out, that was bad, I didn't see any way around it, but then after it kind of went through the process, it did turn out good for you? Anybody? 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 All right. And so, and maybe that would be a good exercise for you to do, is write down some things that you thought was going to be bad but turned out good. All right. You know, I don't know how many guys have told me that one of the best things that happened to them is getting arrested and going to jail. They weren't happy about it at the time, but it turned their life around. Okay. And that's just one for instance. But, this might be good, this might be bad, who knows? And so, and I ask people all the time about difficult things in their life, because we all have difficult stuff. And I say this, some of my difficult stuff, I would not want anyone to have to live through what I lived through. But I wouldn't want to do it again, but I wouldn't want to give back what I learned from that experience, because I got some stuff out of it that helped me. You know what I'm talking about? In fact, I asked a guy that here just a few weeks ago. And I held my breath to see how he's going to answer it. He said, no, I wouldn't want to lose what I have learned. Okay. So, practice number 3. How about that? Are you ready for number 3? I've gone fast. Is that okay? It's 15 after. So, practice number 3 is again Einstein, and Einstein remarked that one of the most important decisions any of us could ever make is whether or not we believe that the universe is friendly. And he was a brilliant scientist, and he's the one that said that. Now, science say that you can't prove a theory. All you can do is disprove a theory. Have you ever heard that before? Yeah. And so what we have here is we have scientist that says, well, you know, we can't necessarily prove that it's friendly, but you can look at all the things that has happened in life. Life exists because it was designed to exist. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yep.
And so if you just, because, you know, we've talked about this in the past about, what was the statement that, I can't even think of it right now, that life works for me, not against me. You know, we went through that process. A lot of us believe that life works against me, but the fact of it is, just exactly what we're talking about here with what Einstein said, is that these things are in our life, and they are there, and they will be there to help us. And if we can choose to go through them and not sabotage ourselves, we can make it. It will happen. It happens. Happens to all of us. So, and we get the right to choose what we're going to believe. Right? Yep. It's a belief. Now, you can either choose to believe that everything's out to get me, and guess what? You'll seek out evidence to reinforce your belief.
Yep.
Right? And it's hard to switch this around, but the only way you can do that is start acquiring evidence to prove that belief is not correct. You choose not to believe that. You have evidence to believe something else, and that it's your right to choose what you believe. Does that make sense? Yep. And that's the third practice, that you choose to practice that. And even though that it is, we have the statement that the universe is friendly, but there are things that do go wrong in the world. Those are two conflicting forces, opposing forces. But the fact of it is, can we say right now that isn't both of those really true? Right? Both of them are true. So which one are you going to choose to have the predominance in your life? That would be a choice, and I would recommend that you practice that every day. Okay? Does that make sense? Somebody say something? Okay. All right. And the last thing that Einstein said, which I read at the beginning of the meeting, is that there are only two ways to live our life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is that everything is a miracle. Would you agree with that? So, you know, in Deuteronomy 30:19 says, choose you this day. You know, you get to choose, right? Don't you get to choose?
Yes.
Or has somebody chosen for you and you just bought into their choice? You're looking at me strange. Questions? Comments? Ideas? Challenges? Yes, sir.
That's like me right now, I'm homeless, I have no place to go.
Yes.
I try to get down and dumb, so I try to keep my, keep positive and, stay positive.
That's good. And because if you're angry and upset, and that affects people around you. So, all right. Was this any value to you? Was that get anything out of it? Huh?
I
All right.
got a whole deal of notes.
You have a whole what?
Deal of notes.
Whole deal of notes. That's a deal is a lot. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And make healthy choices. And